Oh, man. Can I get a goddamn for some P-pump content? Phew. Look at this old girl. $329. Barely broke in, brother. Barely broke in. Well, boys and girls, after that entrance clip, startup clip, you already know. We got ourselves a pump. God dang. So, I'll be honest, I didn't really want to work on this. And it's not because the guy's not a nice guy. You guys know how I feel about P-pump trucks. Not a fan. But, super cool guy. And I was like, you know what? Basically, it's the same thing I hear from everybody with these older trucks. No one around here knows how to work on them. So, we're going to do it. We are going to do it. I don't want to do it, but we're going to do it. And I don't even mean it because of this guy or even this platform. Like, usually these trucks, super crusty, unrealistic expectations, yada, yada. This guy, not the case, which is why I took on the job. Super awesome customer. Basically said, like, he didn't care what it cost. He just wanted it done right. And I love customers like that. So, today we're going to knock out valve springs, governor springs, and delivery valves. So not a super complicated job. We've done it before on the engine stand. Now I figured, you know what the heck, we'll film it while I work on this truck. So today we're going to remove all of his injection lines, remove all of his valve covers, remove his intake horn, kind of clear up some space over here to get to the governor springs. That is step one. And I'm also probably going to disconnect his batteries real quick too, just in case this grid heater, I see these melted things here and that makes me a little scared. So that is what we're doing today. I'll be honest, I kind of lost a couple of tools. So we reached out to the good folks at PDD. We got their delivery valves. He's just going 055s, nothing crazy. He just wants a little bit more power. We're going to be doing kind of a review to help the guys over at PDD out on their new delivery valve socket. I have like an older one. This is their new style one. And then obviously PDD Gov Springs for the dub here. Best governor springs on the market today. Then we have really redesigned governor spring tool. Very, very nice piece. Anodized top part. Then we also have this piece. I'm not sure if they make it in-house. I do not know. And then we have the always solid choice PDD 60-pound overstock valve springs. Now, just in case you're going to do this on your own truck, if you have a factory exhaust brake on your truck, like a Banks brake, something like that, okay, you are going to find that your exhaust ones are already 60-pounders. Now, you can attack this two ways. You can either just upgrade the intake valve springs or just put an all-new fresh set. But in case you are one of the guys that has an exhaust brake, I figured you should know that, save you some time. Now, this guy doesn't have an exhaust brake, so he has stock valve springs on both. Now, one thing that is pretty cool, if you look over here at this manifold, you will see that this is actually an originally EGR truck, or at least had an EGR manifold on it at one point. Now, clearly the intake horn has been swapped to a non-EGR style, but kind of cool. A lot of people don't know that. I think it was just a California thing where these trucks came with an EGR. It was a terrible design then. It's still a terrible design now. But yeah, even 12 valves had emissions, believe it or not. So less jibber jabber. Let's get to work. All right, so here we are, belly of the beast. Took a little brake cleaner, just kind of knocked some of the loose crud off. And there's our valve springs, so I can already tell you they're stock. So we're doing valve springs. I also forgot, we're gonna do valve seals as well. So unfortunately, this is a stock head, so he doesn't wanna pull it, machine it. So we're just gonna put OEM style valve seals back on, no big deal. If you wanna run the top hats, you either have to machine your stock head or get a head that's already machined to accept them. Kind of a labor intensive process. You know, this guy just wants to replace them while we're in there. I said, sure, no problem. You know, it's maybe an extra half-hour labor, if that. And then under here, these are your delivery valve holders. So you take this special socket that PDD sells. Give me a sec. You guys can see here, it's splined, goes on. And I can tell you, since I worked there, that this new design fits much better on the splines. So big fan of that. Originally, it was kind of a tight fit. So I like this new design already. Big fan. So we gotta pull these out, change the O-ring on the delivery valve holder, and then change the delivery valve, get rid of any shims. Then we gotta go down there onto the side of the pump and do governor springs, and we'll do valve springs. Now, I've already filmed governor springs. Go back to that 12 valve swap with Donald's K3500. I did it on a bench, very easy to see. I'm not going to film that on this truck. It's not that you guys aren't deserving. I already did it, and this angle will do you guys no justice whatsoever. So really the big labor intensive part is the valve springs. So we're gonna start with that. What I do personally is I'll start on number 1, get a good system down, okay? Then I go straight to 6, which is the hardest one. And then I do 5, 2, 4, and 3. So I get a groove here, get a feel for it again. Then I do the hardest one when my back's fresh. Then I do 5 because that one's a little hard to get to. And then work my way forward. So not hard. All you gotta do is remove the head bolt and the pedestal bolt there. Pull that out. And that's why you can only do them really one at a time. You don't want to compromise the head gasket is the big thing here. So let's get to work. Once I get the valve spring tool installed, I'll show you. Then I will show you how I do it, and then we'll time lapse the rest of them. Okay, so we removed our pedestal. Again, 18 mil head bolt, 13 mil pedestal bolt. We used the supplied 6 mil Allen. Since it's the first time using this tool, we threw a little bit of assembly lube on the old base there. And then we're gonna put our nut on, which looks like it's a 15 mil nut. Okay, we also TDC'd. If you look at number 6, both valve springs are tight, rocker arms, excuse me, are tight. So now we're gonna go ahead and crank down. Now, I used to do like impacts only on this, and you probably still can, but sometimes it makes the locks kind of fly around. So sometimes it is better to just do it the old-fashioned way. And you want it at TDC because if you don't, what happens is the valve springs themselves, once you pop the keepers off, the issue is the valve can fall into the motor. And you're gonna have to bear with this. I don't know if it's just dump truck appreciation day or what, but we have just a ton of dump trucks, so I take those off, put them on a clean paper towel, take these 2 off like so, then come back here with our little ratchet action. You're gonna back the tension off like so. And this is kind of where if you use an impact, it can kind of make a mess. So again, I mean, teach their own. Sometimes on these tools as well, like, you know, since I'm gonna plan on keeping this tool for a while now, I actually prefer this tool over the pack rate tool, in all honesty. All right, so the tool comes off like so. Then you guys can see there's your factory retainers. We're gonna reuse those. Here is our old valve springs right here. And then you put those right there, and now you'll see the 60 pounders. See how the 60 pounders are taller and they're more of a beehive shape? That's how I knew before we even started. Now to pop his valve seals off, you literally just take a little pry bar, pop them off, and then I usually use, let me show you guys here. Okay, so not that size socket, probably like a 14. Nope, a little smaller. Been a minute, guys, bear with me here. 13 mil, and you can just tap the new ones down. So I'm gonna go ahead, get that done, and then get our new valve seals on this old girl, and then I'll show you guys the process of putting these on. All right, so we got our fresh valve stem seal installed. I know the oil on the valve is dirty, and we brake cleaned it off, put the new valve seals on. Now we're gonna go ahead and install the springs. So to do that, we drop spring number 1 on like so, spring number 2 on like so. Take your retainers, boom. Oh boy, where does that one? Oh, right there, slipped off. Boom. Then you put your tool back on like this, nut like so, and then this is where you gotta kind of line up the valve springs to the valve stems, okay? Because you want them, basically you want the spring centered in the tool and, oh my Lord, spring centered in the tool and the valves centered in the springs. So sometimes you need a little tension on them, get them to about right there. We'll cock this tool over, move this one over like so, and that will send. What a nice day today. We got a lucky break. It's in the 70s all day, and I was like, you know what, I gotta get this guy's truck done. Parts showed up yesterday. Was really dreading valve springs. Originally it was just governor springs and DVs, and I was like, oh yeah, bring it over. And then he changed his mind, wanted to do valve springs, and I was like, fine. They're not hard, it's just tedious work. And then you're gonna need a couple pocket screwdrivers, okay? And you're just going to guide this old girl down like that. And then we'll grab the other 2 here. I don't clean the old oil off, and the reason for that is the old oil acts like a suction when you drop these puppies on. Then we are going to slowly back this tool off like so. And you guys see how that one lock slid into place? Watch it on this side. Slides into place. You're just watching. Sometimes you gotta hit it with a hammer to get the lock to kind of pop up. They get caught like so, and there you go. We took that part off. You guys can see there, locks are seated. Come on. This bolt doesn't have to be crazy tight. It just has to hold that in, and then we'll thread this out here. Okay, like so. Boom, pull the tool out. Set the tool off to the side here. We'll take our rocker pedestal here. A lot easier with 2 hands, guys, a lot easier with 2 hands. Get our head bolt started. Make sure our rocker arms are seated in our push rod tubes. Okay, get our head bolt in here. And you wanna make sure you push down. This rocker arm should move left to right, like back and forth, but it shouldn't rock, okay? You need it to be centered in that hole down there. All right, so we're gonna go ahead, put our head bolt in. We're gonna do this by hand. And something I forgot to mention, I did suck out the oil. You wanna make sure you do that out of this head bolt hole. Okay, like so. Want to make sure you have ever so slight lash okay? You got a little room on the piston. And then we're gonna torque this to 24 foot-pounds. Torque this, I'm gonna go to 100, about 100, 105, because that's stock head bolt torque. And then from there, we will reset the valve lash for this guy, because you have to set the valve lash. That's why I do it this way. So I do one at a time. The reason why I do it that way is so when I get done with the valve spring, boom, I can do lash right there. I don't have to go back over later. Saves a step later on down the road. It also just kind of gives you that feeling of like, okay, it's done. Next one. And you don't have to, excuse me, don't have to worry about it. So now we reinstalled the pedestal. I torqued the head bolt, then the pedestal bolt. I did set the lash to 10 and 20 thousandths on this truck. So now we can move on. I'm going to go a little out of order. If you guys don't know, you're about to. You can actually spin these motors backwards with the, excuse me here, let me think. You can spin the motors backwards with the alternator, which is pretty cool. So to do that, you take a 21 mil socket on this particular brand, and then you'll rotate the motor backwards. So I'm going to be watching for the intake to close. All right, so we're rotating. You guys can see number 6 exhaust going down. Now we're going to be waiting for number 1 intake. Sure beats doing it on the ground. All right, so you guys can see number 1 intake going down. We're going backwards, okay? It's the hardest part to remember is you're going backwards. All right, so number 1 intake's coming up. We're gonna go just till number 1 intake stops moving and the exhaust just started to go down. Now we're at TDC compression number 6, all the way back there. I'm gonna get this banged out. And then I was gonna time lapse it, but yeah, I don't know, it's kind of boring at the same time. Maybe we'll time lapse something else. So I'm gonna just lay down the hammer here, get going on number 6, get the crappy one out of the way, but at least this guy's like insulation's not completely hammered, so we got that going for us, I guess. But we'll pick this back up once all the valve springs and valve stem seals have been replaced. Guys, we just did the last set of valve stem seals, last set of valve springs, lashes set. We'll throw his valve covers back on, keep the dirt out, and we'll start tackling his DVs. Now on the delivery valves, we got our PDD delivery valve socket here. I'm gonna put this on here, take our breaker bar / snap-on flex head ratchet. This one's a little tight. There we go. That one's very tight. Very, very tight. And then we'll get this off. Okay, after a little persuasion, we got it off. Big thing, you don't want to drop that spring in there, so kind of hold the spring with your finger, flip it over. Okay, then we're gonna take our rusty trusty, where did I put it? Oh God. Oh, there it is. Our magnet. We're gonna fish out the old DV here. There's part 1, which we don't really care about that. Part 2. Then you want to make sure you fish around, find any shims. This one doesn't have any. We'll take these 2 parts of the bench here, and we are installing a set of 055 DVs right here. All right, so looking at these up close, this is the old one we pulled out. Okay, this is the new one. This goes down like so. Don't worry, I'll brake clean these off. I know I'm touching them with my hands. Then the shelf here is what they changed. So this shelf, ever so slightly narrower, allows a little bit more fuel. And 055s are just a tiny upgrade over stock. It's what I recommend for guys just wanting to tow. This guy doesn't have injectors or anything, so it is what it is. We'll put these in. He wasn't after crazy power. These on like a stock turbo with stock injectors, about 325 to 375, just kind of depends on the truck. Come back over here, drop that sucker in like so, and finish putting this O-ring on. Drop this spring in. We did lube up the sealing gasket with a little assembly lube. Take our, till it gets tight, then we'll change over to our 1/2-inch torque wrench. Final torque on these is 80 foot-pounds, like so. Done. We'll do the other 4. We'll probably time lapse this real quick. We're going to tackle governor springs, which are located behind this. So right there, that cap. Okay, so you got to take the fuel shut-off solenoid out of the way. That's usually about all I do. It's really hard to get a camera in here, and like I said, look at that video I did on Donald's and it'll show you. So I'm going to bang these out, and then I will take you guys along as we put the rest of the truck back together and then fire it up. And so I did a little bit above and beyond. So here's your factory nut that comes off. Okay, this nut, thread that off. Then this retainer comes out. Then you're gonna pull your springs out. So the big one is your idle spring. You reuse that. These 3 are your factory governor springs right here. Once you pull those out, you'll pull the base out right here. Okay, base is out. Then I didn't mean to, but it happened, so whatever. I pulled the idle spring out, and then you want to sift in there with a magnet and see if there's any shims under here. I ended up pulling out the idle shim, so you want to make sure the idle shim and the idle spring get reused. Then we take our PDD stack here, drop this in. Oh, you guys get the gist. And then we'll put our retainer on and our nut, disregard the first click, and then 2 clicks after that. So I'm going to get this stacked in. If you guys made the same mistake that I did and pulled the idle one out, it is not a big deal at all. All I do, take a little bit of assembly glue on that shim there, like so. Pick it up on the spring end, and the assembly lube acts as like a glue, so we can throw this in. And then I always suggest having a bucket to catch it. I'm gonna get this fished in, put the governor springs in, and then we'll put it together. Okay, we got her all put together, rigged up, and I did already bleed it, and it just barely ran, so we should be good. Got the fuel shut off held open. Really nothing to hide, I just kind of forgot, but we will fire the old girl up here. Just a slight throttle on a 180 pump. Might have been a little too much throttle, but there she is. We're gonna bump up his idle a little bit, sitting at like 650. And my problem is, yeah, see how low it goes? And then reverse will probably be even worse. Yep. So we'll bump up his idle just ever so slightly. And this guy, oh, well, we gotta kill it out here, forgot. There we go, a little manual fuel shut off action. So we'll just bump his idle up and he should be good to go. Okay, there's his idle, bumped it up about 50. Now we got a strong-ish reverse. He's got a low stall converter in this. And then I always give it the blip test. Blip the throttle. Okay, so it needs just a little bit more idle. Not a big deal. We'll get that taken care of. Boys and girls, first test drive vibes. Make sure this thing's got all the RPM, maybe a little bit more fuel. Give you some nostalgia with the old buzzer. That's right, 180 pump starting without any throttle. Yes, Lord. And respect out of our neighbors, we'll take it down Alessandro here real quick. That way we're not speeding through our subdivision. Already got a guy wanting me to sign a petition for speed bumps. I said, absolutely not. Let's see what all 300 horsepower we got here. Make sure he's got all the governor. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. We got 3,000. I'll let this guy pop his own head gasket. What a unit. A little smoky, but I'll let him dial that in with the AFC Live. And this thing is just a gem. Honestly, pretty straight. Brakes feel really good. This is not your typical second gen at all. Like, kudos to this guy. 330,000 on the clock. Steering's probably as tight as it was the day the factory gave birth to her. We'll whip her around up here. Somebody's driveway. A little manual. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Listen to that kitty purr. Shoo! Well, folks, successful test drive. I'm gonna let this customer know to come get his stuff. It was funny, my wife was riding with me. She got out and she was like, no second date for you. So, clearly, I have married a woman with class who would only like a third gen. But, hopefully you guys like this. A little different. Customer actually wanted a video on it, so I said absolutely. A little 12 valve content, nothing too crazy. Again, we did PDD valve springs utilizing the PDD valve spring tool. 10 out of 10 recommend that tool. We also did delivery valves using the PDD delivery valve socket. Again, great tool. I really liked it. And then we did the governor springs from PDD. Those, they're hard to beat. So we got, I took it to 3,800 on a free rev. We revved it out to 3,200. Again, I'll let this guy pop his own head gasket. Like, that's on him. So, hopefully you guys like this one. Drop your comments down below. Subscribe if you're not already. And as always, I'll catch y'all on the next one.